Welcome to the Better Business Podcast. I'm your host, Austin Zelan. Join me week after week as I interview high-level entrepreneurs on their journey to success, both in business and personal development. Each week presents new stories to learn from and new ideas on how to run a better business. Stay updated with all the guests we'll have by subscribing to this podcast. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your business experience? Like, give people a background. Like, who is Edmund?
Okay. I guess you could say I'm a serial entrepreneur. My first business, I launched it when I was 17 years old. It was an e-commerce business. I used to sell merchandise on, sorry, I got to speak up. Okay. I used to sell merchandise on eBay. And after that, I went to college, wanted to be a pharmacist, dropped out of pharmacy school because my father's business, our family business at the time, wasn't doing well. This was 2008 during the recession.
Okay.
So I got involved with the family business, really turned that around. And it was a towing business. Expanded that company from 5 trucks to 52 trucks, had a Napa Auto Care Center, Hertz Rent-A-Car, tire shop, got AAA contracts, CHP contracts, Metro Fever Service Patrol, sheriff's contracts.
And so you were running this whole business by yourself?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
With the help of my dad.
Yeah.
So we're Armenian, but we're from Sweden.
Okay.
And then we moved here in 96. So when my dad moved here, he spoke very broken English. My dad was a phenomenal businessman, an entrepreneur. But when he moved here, his English was very, it wasn't Spanglish. It was like Swedish. It was half Swedish, half English. So he had a language barrier, but he was very sharp as a businessman. So I got involved and, I got us all the contracts that he wasn't able to get. And then from there, my father passed away. So I'm like jumping all over the place, but basically that business, I spent about 7 years on that business. I lived at work. It was towing. It wasn't anything like prestigious or anything to be proud of, right? I lived in a mobile home in the back. I had a kitchen, bathroom, shower, bedroom, the essentials, right? I lived at the tow yard. I really turned that business around. We were doing at the time like $5 million a year in revenue, which at the time was great. And then my father passed away, and I just wanted to get rid of that business. Everything about that business reminded me of him. So I sold that business, got into the oil field business in Oklahoma, bought a few oil fields, some flips. And then got into real estate, got into solar, got into medical transportation. And eventually during COVID, I just decided to get into the restaurant business while making a recipe at home. Back in Sweden, my dad was an Italian chef. He owned a few restaurants. So I grew up in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So this was natural to me.
Could you tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, maybe how you started and then how you got to where you're at today with all the employees and companies and business that you have now?
Yeah, man. So for context, for everyone listening, I'm 30 years old. So I kind of started my entrepreneurial journey in college. So I was about 17 years old when I started. I'm not going to get into what those businesses were. You know, we all started like our own little companies in college and whatnot. But as I graduated, I actually went and got a corporate job. And in getting the corporate job, I was making a 6-figure income. I was doing really well, like compared to my friends at the age of 20, 21. I was making like 120, 150K a year. And I realized, I was like, listen, I could sit here and chase money and I could chase like a 10 grand raise a year and I could be very like, fulfilled financially in that sense, or I could go chase knowledge. And so I know it sounds super cliche, but I actually quit my 6-figure job, took a job for 30 grand a year plus bonus potential based on performance in the marketing space. And I went and basically scaled up another company via marketing and lead gen and all these other things. And I ended up actually making more money than I made at the other job. But the purpose initially was to learn more. I felt like I was already capped out. I was making 6-figure commissions. I was the number one salesperson in that company. And so I realized at a young age, listen, if I do everything wrong financially for the next 10 years, but I just learn so much more and so much quicker than everyone else, then I think by the time I'm 30, my theory is I could make more in that 1 year than I would have made in the 10 years from 20 to 30, right? And so that was kind of the mindset I got into. And so as I grew that company, a lot of attention started coming my way from investors that were involved and other things. And so I started recognizing the opportunity that I think I could take this marketing skill set and start doing it for other people. And I always reflect back on this, looking back where I'm at now. I always tell people like, I never got into this business to be a CEO and to have hundreds of employees and to like build a huge company. You know what I mean? I got into the business because I was really good at marketing and it was really fun and I could do it from a computer and do it from anywhere. And I knew I could make like 50 to 100 grand a month. And I was like, you know what? This is like a really cool lifestyle. Like, let me work my way up. At the time, like 10 grand was a lot. Then 40 grand was a lot. Then 100 grand was like unachievable monthly, right? And so over time, as I learned more, I started breaking more barriers, like not only in skill sets, but just like mentally understanding what is a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like you and I are, we travel a lot. We see so many different kinds of money. Like my friends now make $100 million a year plus. So even if I'm making tens of millions of dollars a year, I'm like so broke and poor to them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whereas like my friend group who grew up with me, making 200 grand a year was like insane. You know what I mean? Whereas my other friends, it's like 200 grand a day is broke. And so like, I think learning and challenging myself throughout that time to get to where I'm at and going from sitting in my basement, like dude, in 2020, I was still sitting in my parents' basement, working from a laptop with like 2 VAs as staff, And then I think over time being exposed to all these people making more money and I realized like, respectfully, I'm smarter than a lot of these people. I have skills that they don't have. And so it came to a point where I was like, I think it's just me putting a mental barrier of how much money I can make and how big I can do this. And so once I got to a point where I was making like 40, 50K a month for myself, I was like, if my worst case scenario is falling back on this, and I know like if I lost everything, just from the skills that I have, I could make 40 to 50 grand a month. I felt pretty secure, like if I could take home 500, 600 grand, worst case scenario in life, I could take care of my wife, my children, get a house, a car, whatever. And so in that moment, I realized I was like, okay, this is my safety net. This is my floor. I'm just going to shoot for the moon. And so from there, I started hiring people. I started understanding more about building teams, turning into a CEO, getting gray hair, like life completely changed. And it went from building what was at the time called 4Media. Now we're called Bad Marketing. And it just went from 10 people to 20 to 30 to 40. Now we're at 185 in that company. And through that company, now we use it as an engine to go buy other businesses. So we bought software companies. I just bought an entire chicken franchise in Atlanta, where I'm from. We're buying other agencies. We've bought 3 other agencies. We're about to buy 2 more. And so we're turning the marketing engine into what basically from a finance, a hiring, a marketing side. Because like you don't just get to 180 people without like having good hiring systems, having a good financial team, like all these admin aspects of a business that we neglect. Mm-hmm. Now that we have it, I'm like, we're already paying for it. Why don't we use it to go scale other companies and have equity in those companies? So that was kind of my rise. So in 2020, I was still literally like making nothing, made tens of thousands a month, but 2 VAs, parents' basement, mom's bringing me food, telling me to eat. Like that was literally like 3.5 years ago. And here we are today.
Why don't you just tell people a little bit about yourself, kind of how you got started in the entrepreneurial journey, and then as you've progressed, what things have you changed or maybe modified to be where you're at today?
Yeah, well, definitely excited to be here. Beautiful studio. Excited to meet in person, man. Congrats on everything you've done, by the way.
Thank you.
I've been following you on social, absolutely crushing it all over the world. Yeah. And yeah, listen, I'm 34 today, and I feel like I've been an entrepreneur kind of my whole life, like growing up in a small town in Bexley, Ohio, right? I'm in Ohio, and it's like we're right in the middle. So there's rich people over here, poor people over here, and we're right in the middle. And ever since I was like in 3rd grade, I always had this, I guess, question in my mind, like, what's the difference between these families that get to travel, vacations all the time and drive nice cars and do awesome things, these people that can barely survive, and then us right in the middle. So I've always been interested in, leadership, marketing, business, making money. Like at first, getting started as an entrepreneur, shoveling snow in driveways in Ohio, and raking leaves and stuff in the fall. Like I just wanted to learn how to make money, be my own boss. And that led me on a very crazy winding road journey that's led me to over 77 countries around the world. And I'm just excited to be here today with you to help other people elevate and accelerate in their lives.
Yeah. Awesome. So what was like the first business that you started in?
Well, shoveling snow growing up in the winter in Ohio. Yeah. Raking leaves in the fall, like I said. And then honestly, one of my best friends, David, in high school, we had this idea. My last name's Morton. His last name was Edelstein. So we started M&E cookies. Literally. We baked chocolate chip cookies in the kitchen, bagged them all up, put M&E on them, and we were slinging them at high school, like in the hallways, making cash money.
Yeah.
Until the principal got upset and said, listen, you guys can't be like, selling cookies in school. But that was really the first business I really ever started. And I guess I just fell in love with the idea of working for like myself. I always had this idea, like, I don't want to be told when to show up to work, when to eat lunch, when to go to the bathroom, when I could take my family on vacation. I wanted to always kind of just do my own thing. And it started, at a very young age.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so the cookie business was the first thing. And then as you progressed to where you're at today, what's your main focus in business today?
Yeah, so at 18, I left, nasty Ohio. I went to Arizona State University. And at 18, I saw $1 million listing on TV on Bravo.
Okay.
And there were these young guys making money, driving nice cars, selling real estate. So at 18, I didn't have a car, but I took a cab to the Real Estate Learning Center in Phoenix, Arizona. I walked in, I applied for my license. I did 90 hours in person and I failed the exam, I don't know, probably 13 or 15 different times. But I eventually got my real estate license at 18 and I found ways to list other people's properties as my own. So it wasn't legal or illegal. It was like in the gray area. But then I was getting inbound calls of people that wanted to, rent these townhouses and condos and stuff. So I started making, back then, decent money as a residential real estate agent. And then at 21 years old, I got invited to a meeting and that's when my whole life changed. Like I met some people and they said, you can be your own boss, set your own time, set your own income, and you can earn residual income. And at first I thought it was too good to be true, found out it wasn't. And then that's been my, I guess, home, my main focus now since 2011.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, what kind of business you run, and how long you've been doing it for.
Yeah, so I run a marketing agency. It's called Mindful Agency. We do brand development for people and personalities and brands. And we've worked with some of the largest brands in the industry, some of the largest personalities in the industry. And what we've gotten really good at is taking people who have never done anything and helping them become thought leaders in a short period of time.
Okay, do you find that they have to have a lot of substance before they can do something like that? Like, for example, if somebody wants to be an expert or a thought leader, should they be in business or maybe have like 5-10 years of experience? Or can you get started with just a base level of knowledge and then work your way up? Or what's like the line that you draw there?
I think the short answer is the more experience you have, the better you're going to come across.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's an up and coming influencer named Alex Hermosi, and he he went from zero to crushing it. Everyone seems to know him in this industry really quick. Why? Because he had the knowledge and experience, and he's not just some kid jumping on social media starting to talk about stuff. And and so people can tell, especially the high level people.
Yeah.
The people we've worked with that have a lot of experience, they tend to grow faster if they have a personality.
Yeah.
So the guys that are kind of stone-faced, they're monotone, they don't really have much of a personality, they're ultimately never going to really grow, but we can try our best.
When you think about your business as a whole, how do you analyze it and how do you see where is the biggest opportunity for improvement?
Yeah, I think I make sure that I'm involved with my leadership team. You know what I mean? Like once it's kind of, I think, as owners and, leaders in business, sometimes we can get detached from the day-to-day stuff and not really know the pulse or the environment of what's going on. And I think that it's really important, especially in the early stages of your business growth, to make sure you're really connected with the leadership team, and really have an understanding of the conversations that are going on, because company culture is so important. Like we want to create a good, positive culture, a healthy culture. And so as leaders, I always say that we set the tone, that it happens for me and then it trickles down. I decide what's going to happen in my company as far as the culture. And so you need to stay plugged in to understand what's happening in your company, connected to the people that are managing, and making sure that you're paying attention. And, one of the things I say is like, you know, in a service oriented business, like you want to make sure that you take care of people. You want to make sure that you treat your people well. And, you know, so I think that, you know, that's real success. Like we can have a successful business, we can make lots of money, but don't forget about the people. Make sure you're treating people well.
If somebody's watching this and maybe they have a business already, hopefully maybe they've started something, they've tried something, and they're at the point where they're like, okay, my business, it might be good, but I want it to be better. So what could those people do in order to have a better business from your perspective? I know you work with a lot of business owners. Is there maybe like a common denominator, or maybe like 2 or 3 things that you commonly see with people that they could change and instantly have a better business?
Oh, I love that question. So I work in the field of PR and branding. So if maybe you had me on and I was a salesperson or something, I'd have a different answer for you. But mine is going to be, what is your personal branding?
Okay.
Because here's the biggest objections you get on sales calls is, why should I work with you?
Yeah.
And your competition is cheaper. Why shouldn't I just go with them? On paper, it looks like the same thing.
Yeah.
How are you going to be different? Is if you can say, oh, well, have they been on Forbes? Have they been in Inc? You know, have they been in real estate? If your niche is real estate, have they been in Real Estate Today magazine? No, they haven't.
Yep.
Okay, well, I have credibility. Here's my credibility that I can point to that showcases why I can charge more and why I'm the best. Why don't you Google me? What comes up? Did you Google my competitor? Nothing comes up. That's how you dominate your industry and dominate your field, is if somebody Googles you, and guess what? In this day and age, I don't care what country you're watching this from, everybody uses the same search engine. If you don't show up, you're not going to get the deal. People need to see you 17 times. It used to be 7 times. Now it's 17 times.
Wow.
They have to get an impression of you before they do business with you. And PR is the only thing that I can see that has been able to do that successfully.
If somebody's doing, let's say, 2 million, 3 million a year, what can they do most immediately to start creating these systems?
One, you need to step out of the business.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. And I kind of became more aware of this when I had my first daughter. So I was like, you know what? I can't step away from the company, all this stuff. And I did. I was like, okay, guys, I'm going to step away for like a month. It was really like 5 days, you know, but I didn't go back into the office for a month. And it allowed me to watch the business externally and see chats happening and kind of do my own digging and not have to like be on calls all day, right? And I kind of stepped out and I started watching. And so if you step out of the day-to-day of like the battle of a soldier who's like, you're productive all day, you know, you're running, you're taking land, whatever it is, you know, as a soldier, right?
Yeah.
When you step out of that lens and you go into like the general lens, when you're looking down and you're like, why are we going that way when we should be going this way? You know what I mean? Like, but when you're on the ground, you just know you're moving forward. But when you're in the sky, you don't look at it like that. You look at it like, oh, why is this person going this way? And why is this person going this way? And so the first step is to pull yourself out of your business, as reckless as it sounds. And even if you break a few things by doing so, it puts you in a position to be much more untouchable moving forward, right? And so I stepped out of my business for a few weeks. I started watching things happening and I started seeing where all the problems were. And now I'm going in and basically building out Google Docs and checklists and processes of how this should run smoothly so that these problems aren't happening. And so as you kind of start tightening screws here and there, you start building a much tighter ship, which can go a lot further, right? And so as stupid as it sounds, I think you need to step away a little bit from the business, take a different perspective, because the day-to-day, you're always productive, you're always moving forward. But dude, how many people do you know that just work their ass off all day, every day?
Yeah.
And in 2 years, they're in the same exact spot they were 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, no progress.
And it's because they don't move out of it and look from like more of a general view rather than like a soldier view.
What do you think people can do to improve their business? Like, how can they run a better business in today's world? I know we have a lot of things that are changing. We have new technology coming out. We have artificial intelligence. We have all these different macroeconomic trends, sustainability, green energy. What can people do in today's world to run a better business?
Okay, well, you touched on technology. So for me, I strongly
The big
believe,
tech guy.
yeah, I strongly believe that tech is the future.
Yeah.
And if you're not finding ways to use it, there's Ray Dalio, right? He wrote the book called Principles, phenomenal book. He runs Vanguard, which is obviously a large fund, and he talked about how whenever he saw inconsistencies in his business, he would create tech solutions to solve it. So he's literally for decades building tech and software around solving solutions in his business, where now, you know, he was ahead of the game on this, but he was doing algorithmic trading before it was, really common for companies to be doing this. So I think that every organization should be identifying, okay, what are the solutions? Here's the easiest one right now. Right now, we're in a place where AI is moving very fast. And I think that as a starting point, start with one area of your business, which would be for many companies, customer service, and just start looking at AI solutions. There's an app called Intercom. We use them for customer support. And what's cool is you create an a knowledge base of all the frequently asked questions for your organization.
Yeah.
They have a tool called Fin, Fin, where it's basically using that plus ChatGPT, but it's super streamlined, where it'll literally respond to tickets, and every ticket that's answered, they charge you $1. If you think about it, when we measured how much time a customer service rep was working, they're spending about 15 minutes per ticket. So if I'm paying my rep, even on the low end, for maybe someone overseas, $10 an hour, I'm actually cutting my cost in half, more than half, about 60% by using this tool. So I just think, like, look at the marketplace, see what tools are out there. And if there isn't something that exists, just go and create your own. There's companies that will build tech for you in the company.
So have you seen learning be a big part of your journey
Oh
as
my
well?
gosh. Well, I was very blessed and fortunate to meet Bob Proctor.
Okay.
I'm 21 years old. He saw me speak for the first time in Charlotte, North Carolina, in front of 400 people. I'm making $400 per month. And he saw something within me that I didn't see within myself. And at the time, I didn't know who this guy was.
Yeah.
Like, I spoke at this event, and then he was like the big keynote guru guy. And when they announced him to come on stage, it was like this standing ovation. There were people crying in the audience. They had like copies of his book trying to get him to sign. And I'm like, yo, who is this guy? Right. So we built this like relationship, friendship, and he became one of my biggest mentor and coach throughout my journey. And he helped me go from like $400 a month to where I am today. But if I didn't invest in myself, like whether it was, paying a couple $1,000s to go to an event, like Bob used to do this event before he passed away in LA. And I remember they were $8,000 per table, and you could bring like six of your team to this event. And I remember we would spend, six figures on one weekend event. And people would be like, why would you spend $100,000 on that? And I would say, would you spend $100,000 to go make, 5 million? Of course you would, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of started there. And then obviously I've sowed a lot of money and seeds into different mentors along my journey. And I tell people all the time, it's like, listen, the people are busy. Like Ed Maalof, right?
Yeah.
I did a little deal with him. We did an event in Miami together, and I paid him some money for a couple phone calls. And it's like, he's worth $800 million. Like, he can't just go to Starbucks with, the guy down the street every Thursday or for free mentorship. So sometimes if you want to really access certain levels of learning and specialized knowledge, you do need to pay to play and gain access to certain mentors. So I feel like without mentors in my life, there's no way I'd be sitting here with you with these results that I built in my life.
How would somebody, maybe they can kind of relate to that. Maybe they're like, wow, I really feel like life is happening to me instead of me having control over my life. Maybe somebody watching this has a victim mindset. How would they break out of it, or at least start that process?
I love that. And what you just said, life is happening to me instead of me happening to life. It's a different perspective, right? So like, I think number one, people have to become aware, right? They have to have an awareness of the narratives that they create in their mind, these stories, right? Where, the victim mindset is one where people create a narrative where they don't have to be powerful. They always have an excuse not to be successful. So I think to be a successful entrepreneur, you really have to have a strong mindset. You really have to have emotional awareness, emotional intelligence. You have to be aware of the conversation and the narrative that's going on in your mind at all times.
Okay, so once you're aware of that narrative, are there some steps that you can take to start changing that?
Yeah, 100%. I think, I believe in writing things down, right? Like, you have to see the story that you created in your mind, and you have to align it with truth. We all need to have a plan in life, right? So for me, I like to set goals, you know what I mean? And to break out of those unhealthy mindsets and really get get on track, I think you have to know what you're aiming towards first, right? You have to have a plan. You have to have goals. You have to map out your future. And you have to constantly align with truth so that you can move forward towards your goals and not have your mindset or because like if most people are like me, we can be our own worst enemy at times. We can actually get in the way, you know what I mean, of our own success, whether it's just through procrastination, lack of motivation, unhealthy mindsets, or lack of knowledge, right? And so we have to teach ourselves and train ourselves. And I think we have to be organized, you know what I mean, in our thoughts and our mindsets.
How important do you think it is for people to prepare themselves before they go into a season of famine? Now, of course, we can't predict. We don't know what it's going to be. Maybe the real estate market is going to crash. Maybe the economy is going to crash. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. But what can people like realistically do to prepare themselves for times like that so that they don't go out of business, but grow out of that moment?
So one of the best things to do is intentionally put yourself in a famine state, right? So if you look at the human body is designed, it actually thrives under stress, intentional stress, right?
Yeah.
So there's trend of what's it called, intermittent fasting, right?
Yeah.
Where you fast for a period of time. And I think in the same thing with business, if you can get to the point where you can operate on a lean budget, save cash, well, then when the rest of the world is falling, you're positioned well to capitalize on it. So I think that would be one thing I do. The other thing I would do is look for opportunities to create partnerships, because there's going to be people who in times of hardship have different skill sets. And so if you can find and this is one of the things that's led to a lot of the stuff I've created is partnerships. We're creating a really powerful, I call it the SP method, the strategic partnership method, where everything I do, I'm looking at how do we create strategic partnerships to make this a win.
If we have our personal brand in check, we have our personal life taken care of, and now we're able to pour into other people. As we continue growing our business, what has been the biggest factor that's allowed you to scale it? Was it hiring the right team members? Was it just improving your sales and marketing or business operations? Like, what was it for you that allowed you to scale?
One, team is everything. And because I'm in PR, relationships is everything. PR, relationships. That's how I have all the connections with journalists and everything. So I understood the value of having a great team.
Yeah.
And that has been my rock. Having people that I can rely on that are going to take care of me and take care of my clients. I mean, we have all 5-star reviews, but it's not me doing the PR work at this point. It's my amazing team that I taught. And they support me. They're the reason that I could be on this podcast and be so proud of the work that I've done because of the systems that I've built, which is super important. Now we have an SOP, where we know how to get amazing results for our clients, but also the team who executes that.
Yeah.
And that comes from me every day being the culture. Because here's the thing about culture. It's honestly just you as the CEO. You can say, well, I'm trying to build culture. You can't build it. You show up as every day as the CEO, and that pours down whether you want it or not. It's your personality. I learned that, and I realized I have to show up for my team if I don't feel good. If I'm doubtful or whatever, it doesn't matter. I have to show up as that leader for them, because if I do, they're going to do a great job for my clients and in their work. Our core value is excellence, and every day on Slack, we have the core values that get automatically zapped every morning, and it's always excellence. And I tell my team, we're excellent first with ourselves, then with each other, and then the third will take care of itself, which is our clients. And that's how I live by and what I teach my team by. So systems and processes and having an amazing team and taking care of them by showing them the culture, starting with yourself.
Now, you're in a pretty unique niche industry. What would you say has been the most successful lead generation strategy for you?
For us, it's definitely paid ads. Number one, it's Google paid ads, paid advertising. That generates the leads that we need. It's marketing in general is difficult, right? So I highly recommend most industries using Google advertising.
Okay. And so you just run like static photos or images, or are you running video ads? What has been the most successful for you?
Yeah, so we have like click funnels, like landing pages. So we'll run an ad for a search term, and it might be like drug rehab near me or alcohol detox near me, and then our ad will show up. We'll have different landing pages for those ads that kind of show our treatment centers and get people to call.
Yeah. How important has social media been in your company's growth?
What's interesting is social media. This is probably, I don't hear people say that social media doesn't really work well for my type of business. Strangely enough. When people are searching for treatment, they usually just go right to Google and Google search. So, the SEO is very important, search engine optimization, making sure that you are, writing a lot of blogs and have a lot of content on your website. But yeah, traditionally social media for my business is challenging, and it doesn't typically work for most treatment centers.
If somebody's wanting to be more out there on social media, should they also start a podcast? Should they just start recording some content? Like what are some things that they should start doing to grow their company using social media?
Yeah, I think it all depends on their strength. So if their strength is like, I'm very like quick and loud and I can get people's attention, short form is probably the approach. You're going to get on TikTok. If you're polarizing TikTok, Instagram, like that's a really good approach, right? If you really suck on camera, then LinkedIn, Twitter are written platforms where you can still grow tremendously in Facebook just by writing things instead of getting on video, right? For me, for example, I can't compete with like hot girls who have huge tits on Instagram, right? And so like I'll do my best to post value, but like where I really win is YouTube, right? Because like a hot girl with a nice rack isn't going to compete with me on YouTube, right? And if someone listens to me talk for 45 minutes or an hour on a YouTube video, they're going to have a different level of respect and a different level of attention with me. And so now I don't have to compete with all these kids dancing and everyone trying to like do things to get 15-second squirrel attention, and actually focus on people who want to sit there and like educate themselves, because that's my strength. Like my character comes out on long form or on conversational stuff like this. I can't deliver something crazy in 25 seconds to the level that I'm trying to get to. But if I can take you from step 1 to 10 in a 40-minute video, I can get you there, and I can get you obsessed with the knowledge that I'm creating and giving you. And therefore you binge me and you go down this rabbit hole. And so that's my strength. So my advice to everyone is like, find your strength based on those 3 categories and go hard on that one area. Like a lot of people just go and they'll be like, okay, well, I'm probably good at YouTube because of what Eddie said. And they'll go and post 2 YouTube videos and they'll get like 50 views and they'll be like, YouTube doesn't work. I suck at YouTube, blah, blah, blah. But they don't actually sit there and study it. They don't look at their thumbnails. They don't look at their click-through rates on the videos. They don't look at the retention and the watch time of the videos. And so if you just pick that one platform instead of trying to be on all of them and figure out like what makes this platform tick, because this is my area of comfortability, whether it's text, video, long form, short form, whatever it is, and just like study that platform obsessively, I think you'll be in a really good position to grow on social media.
For people who are maybe just starting out building their personal brand, what kind of content schedule should they be on? Should they be posting once a day, twice a day, 5 times a day?
I would say start with once a day, because if you start telling yourself like, oh, I need to post, 10 stories a day and post 3 times per day, I think you might just overwhelm yourself a little bit. So I think posting, 1 time per day, at least 6 days per week. And it's like, okay, Alex, what do I talk about? What do I post? I think people should really like decipher what are my core 4, or what are like some of my like buckets? Like what do I feel comfortable talking about? What am I passionate about? What turns me on emotionally and energetically to where like I'm not going to get bored talking about certain things, and luckily for like us, one of those is obviously, success and growth and personal development. So I think everybody out there, whether you have $10 or $10 million, there are things that interest you. And there are other people out there that are also interested in what you're interested in, man. Like it is what it is. Like, I don't care how small you think your niche is. There's 8 billion people on the planet. There's some other, nut jobs out there that like what you like anyway. So focus on what you like and go all in on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So by core 4, you mean like your 4 interests that you want to talk about?
Yeah, like I for me, financial education, success, the spiritual laws of success, like the law of attraction, different things like that. And then I'm kind of like leaning towards now, I don't know, I guess I'll call it freedom fighting. I don't know. Like the world has made me and a lot of other people so mad. Like I can't hold myself sometimes. And I'm not a political person. I think It doesn't matter what I think. But the point is that like I'm exposing the truths out there. Like when you look at a school and a jail and a hospital, there's lots of similarities between those three physical facilities. It's like, you know, the lights are dim, the windows. It's like we've been conditioned to go out there and fail, be unhealthy, get addicted to big pharma's medications. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole right now on this podcast, but one of my buckets is like trying to help people wake up to the idea of stop relying on governments. Rely on your own intuition, common sense, and your own thinking. And then you can make good decisions for you and your family.
Interesting. Do you think people should be pairing their PR strategy with content? Maybe like YouTube videos or Instagram, or like what social media platforms do you think contribute most to those 17 impressions?
Absolutely. So we like to repurpose content.
Yeah.
For example, I'm on this podcast. If you're watching this, you may be seeing this on my feed right now, because what I do is I cut up content from podcasts and I put it. That's my content on my socials. Conversely, if I write something for Cointelegraph, which is something that I'm a contributor for, I will take a quote from that and I will post that on my socials. I'm constantly taking what makes me an authority and reposting that on my socials to show people, hey, here's free value to you, but also showing you that I know what I'm talking about, an authority in my field.
Yeah. So establishing yourself as a thought leader in the space, because, you know, people are drawn to the people who are establishing the standard. And so no matter what industry you're in, you want to be seen as a thought leader, as somebody who has that brand and is seen, more importantly. If you're seen in your industry and seen as the authority figure, it's likely that people will do business with you.